Hello, hello, hello. This is Gresh from the I Am CEO podcast, and I wanted to share with you one of the episodes that I was a guest on for someone else's podcast. I always talk about how important it is to build a media company. One of the next best things you could do is be on somebody else's media company. So I had the pleasure of being a guest on this podcast, and I wanted to share a little snippet with you because it would help support the 8 business pillars we've really been trying to focus on with a lot more of our content, and a lot more of the solo episodes that I'm doing. So make sure, of course, that you subscribe to our podcast, but of course you take some time out, check out the show notes and subscribe to the podcast that I've been featured on as well too, and get to learn about some of those 8 business pillars and how you can continue to kind of leverage and build that up so you can go from builder to architect to, of course, rockstar and luminary. So this is Gresh signing out. I hope you enjoy this I Am CEO special episode.
Before we start, just tell more about yourself, experience, background, and why you decided to share with us about media company mindset.
Yeah, I appreciate it, Anatoly. Super excited to, get to talk and be here and share a little bit more about me. I don't know if the AI got a hold of the media connection or something like that and kind of, threw us for a loop, but I'm glad to, be here. So my name's Gresham. I'm in the Washington, D.C. area. I have kind of 2 different, businesses that I focus on. I have a digital marketing company focused on web design, support, SEO services, and that will be 10 years old this year. And then I have a slew of media kind of resources for the audience that I work with the CEOs, entrepreneurs, and business owners. And a lot of that is around blogs, a daily podcast, video content, all to help CEOs, entrepreneurs, and business owners to succeed and win. So that's what keeps me a little busy.
Yes, love it. Okay, Gresh, let's talk about how you can unite 2 different channels. I mean, like SEO and media. I think some companies can order SEO services, others can prefer media, but we can take both and unite, because I see the last time media plays a huge role in SEO as well. So any tips how to do it right?
Yeah, I mean, I think you really just hit the nail on the head. I think we're getting into a time period, or we've been getting into that time period, but it's more and more accelerated, where there aren't silos around really any aspects of our life, let alone, our businesses and our organizations. So when we're talking about, building a media company, trying to leverage things from SEO to, TikTok to, Instagram and trying to figure out, make sure our Google ads are running correctly, it's so important to understand like how these things are not siloed. They're all integrated. And once you kind of have that mentality, a lot of what I kind of talk about is really approaching that mindset very similarly to going to the grocery store to get your favorite ingredients or the best ingredients for whatever your dish is. After you have an idea of like what you're trying to do as far as your goal, after you have an idea of, some of the ingredients and the pros and cons of each, you start to realize that you can leverage and blend some of these ingredients together to ultimately make the dish or the recipe that you ultimately want. But it's very important to, first of all, understand that they're not siloed, and secondly, to understand that there's pros and cons of each of these, whether we're talking about earned media versus paid media, or we're talking about SEO versus TikTok or any social media platform. When you start to understand the pros and cons, I think it allows you to say, okay, if I can look at this media landscape as a whole, I can see what are going to be those integral things that get me to ultimately where I want to be.
Nice. Love it. Gresh, I want to ask about creative mindset. It's interesting, once I read a story about Lloyd Richardson. He published a book 11 years ago, and he spent 14 years to write this book. Many years of hard work to write just a single book. Then after publishing, he tried to sell with generic marketing, sales, but nothing can help to sell this book. Then his daughter decided to post content on TikTok about this book from account with 0 followers. This video became viral. Plus 50 million people watched this video. And of course, I watched this video. I want to know how to get 50 million people, And what I found, it's not, this video has no nice looking design, simple design. But it's creative, it's creative. I got the feeling of curiosity. I wanna read this book. It's interesting. And today this book is bestseller on Amazon. So creative video beats all marketing and sales methods. I think it's important today, especially when we have AI and many content creators complain that AI is not creative. Yes, of course it's not creative because it's the best rewriting tool ever. Rewriting, not writing. So, any tips how to be creative, especially when you have this media company mindset?
Yeah, and I got to check that video out too to kind of see that now. It'll definitely be 50 million and one viewers because I'm going to check it out as soon as we get out of this. But I think one of the things that we forget about when we're using the word creativity is that a lot of times you want to create space for creativity. So when we think about tools like AI, it's not that you're creating with AI, it's that AI is allowing you to be free so that you can create a lot more. And if we kind of look at all these tools and avenues that we have and use them in conjunction, then we start to realize that they're not really competing with, our creativity. They're actually adding to it because it allows us more space to be creative. So when we're talking about, different ways to get your business out there in your organization, definitely video obviously is really, powerful because it touches on so many different senses. You get to see people, you get to hear them, you get to connect with them. You see the verbal that they're saying, you see the nonverbal that they're saying. So, and now we're seeing that the technology that the people have as well too, whether we're talking about our smartphones or internet connection when it's not going out, is set up such that we can take in more and more video content. So not only are people more open to it, it touches on more senses, but it also is we're at a time where the technology is allowing that too. So that's where I think a lot of that, that opportunity comes from. But I think anytime you're talking about any part or any space or time within, your journey in business, you want to get a very good idea on not just the ingredients that are important, but how are people tasting and taking in those ingredients? So you mentioned writing the books and spending 14 years on creating this, masterpiece of work and all this knowledge and information, and not getting as much opportunity as it could because maybe it wasn't kind of given in the ingredient that people wanted to taste, they wanted to enjoy, they wanted to take in. So I think as much as it is important to, of course, create quality content or quality information, have a quality business, it's maybe even more important to make sure that it is palatable and people can take it in, they taste it, they want to know it. So as much as it is creating it, it's also about translating it so people that can understand it, they can take it in and they can use it, and it's valuable for them too. So it's kind of balancing between both of those.
Yeah, nice. I wanna ask about one more about difference between media and SEO because I see SEO is more about evergreen content, but media covers like breaking news, something new. But I think it's important for SEO as well because the last time we have a lot of conversations, it's important to update content, and readers are not interested to consume content that was written many years ago, even if it's evergreen content. So, can you tell how it's important to update today and how media information, the last data, can help you with that?
Yeah, I think, those two things definitely go hand in hand. And when I look at media, I don't look at media as just, your traditional media or maybe even the newer type media where we're often talking about PR. We're seeing like all of these things are starting to blend. Even if you think of social media, it's media and it's heart, but it's just a social variety. So I think that when we're talking about, SEO, we're talking about being able to kind of create media, I like to call it, but that could be blogs, that could be podcasts, that could be video that's embedded on your site. All of that, in my perception, is media. And I think if we start to kind of break down those barriers, we start to see that these practices and the things that we're doing are very much in line. Like some of the same practices that you're going to do when posting on TikTok or you're posting on, Instagram or using Reels are going to be the same kind of principles. Maybe you're going to do it in a different way, but the same kind of principles you'll do if you're writing a blog or you're doing an interview or if you have a podcast or you're going live. So at the end of the day, you want to make sure that you are leading with that value as much as possible and understanding like where this value lies. You don't want to do it just for the sake of doing it, because even if you're trying to rank well, whether we're talking about, from an SEO algorithm standpoint, or you're trying to get more organic traffic through TikTok, you want to make sure that you're leading with value. And I think if you have that mentality and you have that approach, it's not always going to be true for every single blog post that you wrote. It could be very valuable and it may not necessarily land as much as you hoped. But if you continue to kind of showcase and provide value, then I think more times than not, you're going to be on the right side of that.
Nice. I often see when customers don't understand what they want to get. For example, they usually share competitors and tell, I want this traffic, I want this sales. But I usually explain it's better to consider your strong side, your unique selling proposition. Competitors might have their strong sides. For example, if I want to film videos like Mr. Beast, how I can beat him, because his strong side, experience, and he spent many years to get it. I remember like he got first 1,000 subscribers after 18 months, to publish all this video. So he got experience. And can you tell how to do it? For example, if you get a customer who doesn't know what to do, how to create the right strategy, how to lead this customer in the right direction.
Yeah, and I think you hit the nail on the head. It's funny, on my show, I'll ask everybody that's on the show like for what I call their secret sauce, which is kind of the thing that they feel kind of sets them apart and makes them unique. And I think that kind of a misconception is that you flick a button or you check a box and then you have your secret sauce. But I think a lot of times it's a journey in and of itself to understand, like, how are you going to break through the noise? What sets you apart? What is going to help you to really connect and resonate with the audience that you're trying to connect with? And I think that once you kind of understand that a little bit more, what it leads you to do is to have an idea of like what that secret sauce is, what kind of sets you apart. And then you start to experiment and you start to see what connects and what doesn't connect. You start to see that, hey, maybe I like that aspect that Mr. Beast is kind of leveraging. Let me, try that on, like a pair of shoes. Let me try that pair of shoes on and see if it fits or if it doesn't. And if it fits, a little bit, maybe you're going to say it doesn't quite do exactly what I want to do, or I want to execute it in a different way. You start to create your own recipe as a result of adding those different, methodologies, ways that people are approaching. So I think it's a process. That's the first and foremost thing I would help people to understand. It's not going to be as if you create one piece of content, you post it, and then you automatically know that you have nailed it. Like you mentioned Mr. Beast, you mentioned all these people that are extremely successful. The person that wrote the book, they worked for years and years and years. And I think that's one of the biggest misconceptions. I think the quote is the secret to the overnight success is it takes 10 years. And I think if we don't recognize that, we don't understand that, then that's just kind of setting ourselves up for failure.
Yeah, I remember one podcast hoster, and he told he invited Gary Vee to his podcast, and one of his listeners asked him how he got Gary Vee on his podcast, what he did, and he replied to this question that he spent 20 years to invite Gary Vee to his podcast. So yeah, I think it's the same if you invite Bill Gates or Elon Musk for 5 minutes, and if these guys will come, that means you deserved with your hard work. Okay, Gresh, let's talk about creating the right strategy. Can you tell how to do it? Because, I see when people in SEO field, they open SEMrush, Ahrefs, Uber suggests many other great tools. They see high volume, they think, wow, I want to get this traffic, I want to do it. But in the first stage, it's hard. It's really hard to get these keywords because, for example, if I take SEO, I need to compete with Moz, Ahrefs, Google, many other great pieces of content that deserve these ranking positions because of resources, because of branding, many other things. But in the second, it doesn't mean that I can sell by having this keyword, because if you sell SEO services, I'm not sure that SEO will help a lot with that. So can you tell how to find the right strategy in SEO?
Yeah, I think that a lot of it is right in line with the things that we've been talking about. And usually the I would say the infinite opportunity is in the niches, and those opportunities are like how people are searching and trying to be as far ahead as possible. Wayne Gretzky has this quote, and it always resonates with me because I think it resonates with SEO, where he says, "I don't skate to where the puck is; I skate to where the puck's going to be." And I think that if you have that experimentation that we talked about before, and you're constantly saying, okay, where is this puck potentially going to be? I'm going to try to be there, but it's not just necessarily one place. I'm going to try, different things. And to get really tactical, I mean, that could be everything from, having different, pages on your site, having different keywords, from creating and kind of optimizing those pages in different ways, adding images and videos, just so many different ways to try to increase your likelihood of ranking. I think at the heart of it, it's all around that experimentation. But I think that if you're trying to show up for SEO, like you mentioned, it's very, very competitive. So you're going to have,
Yeah.
a challenge, and you're working upstream to try to make that happen. But if you start to see that, okay, maybe you found that not at the top of, SEM Rush, uh,
I think we lost connection for a while. So, yeah, we need to wait a little bit. To get back, Crash, to the show. So, it happens even in this world with technologies. I often need it, but yeah, it's life. And I think you are back. So, I lost connection when you explained about SEMrush.
Okay. Yeah. What I was just saying, if you go to SEMrush and you look at those top keywords, and you're saying that those are extremely competitive, and they are extremely competitive, if you think about the number of people that are trying to rank for those, rather than look at the top, maybe look at the bottom, and you start to see, like, what can I start to rank for? And even use those top keywords along with the bottom keywords and start to blend them together. So, if there's, certain, rank terms, like how do I rank for local SEO, is extremely competitive. But you see at the very bottom, it might be something along the lines of, how do I rank, my TikTok higher? So if you blend those, how do I rank my TikTok higher for local SEO? All of a sudden you have a little bit more of a niche search. So you play around with those different opportunities, and you see that they're less competitive. So you're probably going to be able to put, quote unquote, less effort into and less resources into doing that. And you're able to rank for more of those, which you start to find that, for one, you start to rank for those, but two, you might be ahead of the curve. You might be where the puck's going to be, and you have that opportunity to rank better over time, because at the heart of it, SEO is definitely more of a long-term type of marketing strategy.
Nice, nice. Gresh, I have the question. If I have limited resources, I think all companies, even big companies, have limited resources. We need to choose priorities. Now, for example, what I see when companies create content plan with 100 topics, but having resources for 10 topics, it's not a good idea. Can you tell how to choose the right priorities and stick with them?
Yeah, I think anytime you're using any, or thinking about any marketing strategy, three questions are always, I think, the most important. One, we obviously touched on, is resources. I think so many times when we're talking about resources, we can quickly think about, money and budget and things like that, but also don't discount time. And that's whether you're putting your time into, building that, or you're potentially hiring somebody, and how they're going to spend their time if they're internal to your team. So look at time and then resources. So be honest about that and what you're looking at. And then after that, be very clear on where you want to go. And that's basically saying, like, what are your goals? What are you trying to accomplish? What does success look like? If you're trying to sell an ebook, or potentially try to give away an ebook, your approach is going to be a lot different than somebody that wants people to pick up the phone and call them right there, or somebody that might want them to chat or download their podcast, or whatever it is. You want to be very clear on, the goals that you have. that are going to make sure that happens. And then from there, you just really get an idea of like what is, the thing that kind of does set you apart, that secret sauce, and you figure out what that blend of that's going to be. So when you're thinking of how to prioritize those things, I think so quickly we can look at what other people are doing and say they're really successful at that. But we don't take into account their strategy. So I think it's really important. The very first step is to get really clear on, those three questions of those things, and then kind of work backwards from there. Because I think that's going to allow you to make the decisions that are in alignment with where you want to be. We so quickly can jump on doing things that aren't really helping us where our goals are. And then that's when we start to, I think, get further and further, quote unquote, behind the competition, because we aren't executing our strategy in alignment with our resources, what goals are, and then being able to kind of execute from there.
Nice. Gresh, you mentioned about secret sauce strategy. So can you tell what kind of secret sauce you have? I mean, like your two companies have, and how you can stand out from your competitors, the rest, and help more to your customers?
Yeah, I think a lot of what I've come in, and this is right in line with the question that you have, which is what I love, is that I wish that I could say that I knew that was quote unquote my secret sauce from day one. Actually, a lot of it, what I think is my personal secret sauce, comes from something I did when I was 10 years old. My dad was in the military. We didn't have all these fancy tools that we have now. So I started then a family newspaper, and I sold the family newspaper subscriptions to family members. And I was 10 years old at that time. So it wasn't like a major media company, but I always joke and say that was my first media company. So when I'm thinking of secret sauce, a lot of it is something that is innate to who you are. And a lot of times that can manifest itself in the business, in the organization, and in the people. So when I try to figure out what mine's was, I, continue to work on a lot of things, but I went back to those things that I felt like came naturally. So when you're thinking as an organization, like, what is my secret sauce? A lot of times there might be seeds planted that you haven't really appreciated. And sometimes we even take for granted, and stories that you might have as well, too, just like, my family newspaper. So when I'm thinking about my secret sauce, I'm thinking of my interest and my curiosity, and just knowing about, people, their stories, how they think. I often say, like, I have a very journalistic kind of mentality, and that's why I talk a lot about building a media company, because I think if you try to provide value for the people that you're trying to serve, then that's going to help to support your business and maybe provide other opportunities that you never thought of. So when it's me, it comes down to content, but it's not just content for the sake of content. Not just to check off the box. It's that really in-depth understanding and curiosity around what people are doing, what makes them tick, especially from a CEO, entrepreneur, business owner standpoint. But I'm that annoying person that if you were to sit down at a bar, I'll be probably asking you a million questions about what you do, why you do it, how you do it, and all of those things. And I think that just has manifested itself in all the things that I do.
Yeah, nice. Love it. Yeah, I think it's a big issue with many companies. They get the average data from tools and don't know customers. They share competitors, don't know customers. Spend time with your customer, learn from them. You can get a lot more data than any tool online study can provide, because it's average data. It's far away from your unique selling proposition. Gresh, I see your environment. I like your background. I see, I can feel it's like brainstorming or some kind of list from your left and right side. Can you tell what kind of environment you have and how it can help you, in your business?
Yeah, absolutely. I moved here about a year or so ago, so it definitely wasn't set up as it is now. But obviously, I have a lot of soundproofing around here. But I also have a dry erase paint that's here, so it allows me, brainstorm a lot. But actually, I'll tilt this over a little bit to the right. You can actually see I have, and it's hard to see, but when I was doing the dry erase paint, I actually got to the bottom of the can, and it was all supposed to be white. But I was like, I just wanted to do certain parts of the wall. And I said, you know what, I got this here, so let me just keep using it. And what happened is it ended up turning yellow. So that corner I actually call my fail wall. And it's one of the most powerful things that wasn't supposed to happen but ended up happening. So I end up putting a bunch of quotes about failure, about how failure is not final, about like how, you know, when a baby falls down, no one tells the baby, hey, you're not built to walk, so stop walking, just crawl for the rest of your life. Just all of those things. So I'm addicted to quotes. I have, you know, so much, you know, brainstorming things up, but I really think that fail wall that's in the corner that you might, you know, see some of those quotes is probably one of the most unexpected things that happen that end up being really powerful for me to see on a daily basis. And I think too, it kind of just reminds me a lot of the process of marketing or the process of business and the process of life at that, how it doesn't necessarily always go the way that you want it to go. But that doesn't necessarily mean that it's worse. And I think that a lot of times you can be set up for success by just kind of, you know, I say a lot of times, don't get attached to the how, get attached to the why. So just how things are done may not go exactly how you want them to go. But if you have a strong why, you know, you're doing this for X, Y, and Z reason, then regardless of what the how ends up being, then you're still going to be able to kind of, you know, set out and manifest your why.
Mm-hmm. You remind me Shaquille O'Neal. Once he said about failing. He told that when he starts something new, any new project, business, he always fails, always. Because we start from generic strategies, best practices, then we need to adapt, to learn from failure, to go ahead. But I see when content creators give up, most content creators give up by recording the second episode of podcast, to write the second article, I don't know, because they can't get results from the first one. I have no idea how to do it, you know. It takes time. Even Mr. Beast, many other great influencers, they spend time. Gary Vee shared that he spent like 7 years on Twitter to create content from 7 p.m. to 3 a.m. every single day. He avoided parties, many other things, and was consistent with that. Can you tell about failure for you? What kind of failing you can meet? Because, you know, in my times, in my life, I made a lot of mistakes. I keep doing them, you know, but I love learning from them. So describe your understanding of failure and how not to give up and go ahead.
Yeah, I think you know, this might be a whole different episode if we talk, you know, about failure
Yeah.
and just like the psychology and why we're so like afraid to fail, which that didn't even make sense. Like we're afraid to fail, so we don't, you know, try at all. And I think that we have such a you know, misconception on, you know, what failure is, and it's been, you know, a process for me and continues to be a process. It's part of like why I have this fail wall up, of like really understanding that failure is not the opposite of winning. It's not the opposite of success. It's not the opposite of where you want to be. It's actually part of the process. And it's taken me a really long time to get to kind of understand that. And, you know, I always say if I could jump into a time machine, that's exactly what I would tell myself, is that failure is actually the path. That's actually the opportunity. That's actually setting you up for success. And if you embrace that, you embrace the learning and you try to fail in a way that's not catastrophic, which often the failures that we have built up in our head are catastrophic. We think if we post that you know, post on TikTok and it gets 0 followers or even 0 likes or 0 views, that we have failed at life and we have failed at business and we have to, you know, put you know, out of business up and all these things. But in reality, a lot of it is not that. What separates those people is really just, you know, stepping in and going further. And Sarah Blakely, who founded Spanx, I read and listened to an interview that she said that when she was young, her dad would always ask her, you know, how was your day? And, you know, of course, she always wanted to say, hey, this went well. And, you know, I did, you know, X, Y, and Z and A, B, and C. So he started to ask her like how she failed every day. And every time she would mention how she failed, he would give her a high five. And it completely changed the way that she looked at failure. So I think that hearing those stories and hearing like the true path to success, that your Shaquille O'Neals, your J.K. Rowling's, who got rejected so many times before she wrote Harry Potter, like all those people failed so much. And that's what led them to success. It helps you know that, hey, failure is not this terrible thing that we feel like it be. Don't get me wrong. Everybody wants to succeed with everything that they do. But one of the reasons that success is, and I think success and how we define it varies, but success is so powerful, is because there's so many people that fail and they just stop. But really, the opportunity is to fail and keep going and learn from it, and then you continue to kind of lean your way to success. A whole super long answer, but hopefully that helped, how I think about failure.
Yeah, nice. Yeah, I remember when I read a book. Dale Carnegie wrote this book about stop worrying, and he shared a story about a guy who lost a job, was disappointed a lot, and after meeting another guy who didn't have legs, without legs, but this man without legs told him, "Wow, it's a nice day, sunny day. I love it." And he after that he changed completely his mindset about failing. If you have legs, if you have health, if you have hands, you have enough to overcome all obstacles. Stop worrying, just go ahead. I love it, agree with that. Gresh, I wanna ask about common mistakes in media marketing, in SEO. Can you list mistakes that you can see that marketers still do, and your way how to find a much better way?
Yeah, I think that a lot of it, we touched on a little bit. I think in terms of, going to see what keywords you want to rank for is not kind of niching down from there. Because if we're talking about the most competitive keywords, we're talking about, your title tag and meta description and getting really, technical from that standpoint, not having those set up. But it's not just saying that, Yoast or whatever plugin that you might use gives me a green light. So that means that I have my SEO set up correctly. There's a lot of strategy around like SEO, and a lot of that strategy, even with, AI tools and all these, technological softwares that we have and these SaaS tools that we can leverage, I think is only as good as the questions that you ask, the prompts that you put in. You hear that a lot around ChatGPT. ChatGPT can be an incredibly powerful tool if you ask the right questions. But I think a lot of people think they're just going to sit down and the questions, at least not yet. It's not going to pull the questions, from what you're looking for. But you start to realize that your ability to be able to know exactly what your strategy is going to set you up for success more than anything else. So when we're talking about your title tag meta description, yes, you want to, of course, make sure that you're within the amount of characters, and you make sure that you have your alt, tags set up for your images, and all of those things are important. But it's only as important if you know exactly what you're wanting to rank for. And I think that when you're honest about what that looks like, because if you're trying to rank for the most competitive keyword, as we talked about SEO, you can have everything in line, but you don't necessarily have everything in line because there's so many other, considerations that you haven't, thought of. So I think first and foremost is making sure that you understand what your strategy is, and you're starting to look and be in line with that strategy, not paying attention to what other people are doing, but just being aligned with that. The other, big thing that I see a lot is, especially with COVID, you had a lot of organizations and businesses that were pivoting. They might have rebranded their businesses. They might have also, decided that they were going to start another business or another arm of those businesses. You can get some benefits, but a lot of times if you're getting like a new domain, you're kind of starting from, it's like I usually say, like building a new house. So you can get some benefits in terms of like getting, the backlinks coming back from there. But overall, you have to understand that you're not going to start from the same place that you started from an SEO standpoint, from a Google standpoint. So it's understanding that as much as possible, you want to try to, benefit the URL that you have, but also know if you're launching something new, that in fact is probably going to be something new. And there's of course different ways you can work through to try to, improve that. But I think most people think that, okay, because I've been successful, because I have all these accomplishments on my bio, Google's going to know that. And when I launch this new business, it's going to be the exact same. But it's usually not, whether we're talking about, a website, or we're talking about even creating like a new social media handle and things like that. So I think from a very granular standpoint, it's understanding the whole kind of psychology and the way that, these tools work. But it's also like, using the tools to support the mission and the strategy that you put in place, and it ends up being a strategy that you can, execute on. So hopefully that's, somewhat helpful.
Yeah, nice. Let's talk about AI. So it's hard to ignore this topic today, impossible tomorrow. And you mentioned about writing prompts. You remind me Elon Musk when he shared a screenshot after with the question that he asked on ChatGPT. And I read a few times this question to understand what Elon Musk wanna get. Now, so he wrote a unique prompt, unique question, and AI gave unique answer, unique. And it's but I see when people set up prompts like write an article how to play guitar, how to lose weight, how to build muscles. You can get content that you can find on Google. Even on Google, you can find much better content because AI just rewrite existing content. So can you tell how to write these prompts, how to create unique prompts that Elon Musk did before? He did it before criticizing AI and signed this letter with my 1,000 other companies to procrastinate the process. And it's interesting after that, he decided to buy expensive equipment to develop this technology on Twitter. So Elon Musk can change his mind fast. It's his attitude. And let us know about writing these prompts.
Yeah, I think that one of the big things that you see around all different types of technology, whether we're talking about SEO or we're talking about social media, is there's kind of this I guess hesitation or kind of, fear, maybe, since we were talking about fear around like how exactly to do that. And when we're thinking about AI, I feel like it's a lot of the similar things and same things. I think we're just scratching the surface on what it could potentially be. And AI has been around, if you really, think about it, from, being able to kind of take information and, synthesize that information very quickly. So it's been around for some time. I think it's just become obviously a lot popular with ChatGPT and, writing, college essays and taking, GMAT tests and all these tests and passing them. I think people are starting to see like, oh, wow, can be pretty powerful. So I answer, that question in much the same way that I would for most, technology tools, is that the technology is getting advanced enough to where you can end up having conversations with it. So I think some of the best prompts, and I think where things are moving, is that you're able to ask very specific questions. The questions that you might ask in your dining room or you might ask in your boardroom, where it's very specific. That's kind of, I think, where you're going to see AI continue to improve. So not just asking like, hey, I want a prompt to for my meal prep for the rest of the week or for the rest of the month. It's asking questions along the lines of, hey, I'm 178 pounds and I want to increase and bulk up to 200 pounds. What types of things should I eat Monday through Friday so that I can continue to kind of increase my weight? And oh, by the way, I want to work out 3 or 4 times a week too. And I think when we start to get a little bit more specific on what that looks like, and just like you're having a conversation with your personal trainer that you might use or your friend that you're chatting with, I think that's really where the power of it is. But I think, it's still somewhat of there's a gap between understanding the totality of who you are, understanding if you have certain health conditions and you didn't input it there, or even just taking the output that you received and making sure that it is actually something that you can achieve or is logical and things like that. So I think, again, so many times we think that it's human and technology. These are on two ends of the spectrum, but I think the opportunity is really where these things are hand in hand. So it's thinking that specificity, but also being able to kind of think use that creativity to say, okay, this does work or this doesn't work. Hey, I'm actually allergic to shrimp, so I can't eat that, and I forgot to input that. So do you have so just things like that. So I think it goes hand in hand, just like a good game of like badminton or tennis, where you go back and forth with the AI and you ultimately just have conversations. So I think there's, of course, if you've been on, any type of social media, you've probably seen a million props that you could buy for $20. But I think that we're going more and more towards understanding that it's at the heart of it, having a conversation and having the prompt be exactly like you were talking, with your best friend.
Yeah, nice. And Gresh, my final question about your experience. By the way, I asked this question, but I want to share the reply with new listeners who can listen to this podcast. If you started today from scratch without any experience, knowledge, skills, what will you do today to learn more about media marketing, SEO?
Yeah, I think the last question you asked kind of dovetails right into this. And I think that using, the AI tools is a really good place to start. I really think like using your ChatGPTs, your Google Bars is really powerful because it allows you to really start to think about things. It really allows you to say that, okay, I'm thinking about starting this business, an SEO business, a media marketing, or what advice or things should I be considering? Do you have, some people that you think are super successful that you can think are really great, unofficial mentors that I can lean into? So asking those questions, I think, is going to be extremely powerful. It's funny enough that a lot of what I did earlier on, like especially with the podcast and the blog and all of those things, was asking those questions because I wanted to learn about business and learn about information. The beauty of these AI tools is that you can ask them, you can do them a lot quicker. And if you're using that for a market research or just a curiosity standpoint, it ends up being, the way that you can start and fail or pivot or get information earlier on. So hands down, I would probably be leveraging these tools to try to just get more information, more ideas. If I had a specific idea, I'd probably be kicking it around, unless it's like something, super proprietary. I would probably be, putting it there and just seeing, get an idea of the target market, the avatar that I think I'm going to, focus on, which is extremely important too, which is a very valuable question with marketing, and just continue to kind of learn. I think, again, it's understanding that your why is not changing, your how is going to change. So while you may not be doing blogs and podcasts and things like that I was doing at the very beginning to learn about business, you still might be leveraging tools to again, get to your why. So that's definitely what I would do if I was, starting today.
Love it. Awesome. Love it. Great. Gresh, it's a big pleasure to get on my show again, to learn from you. You always share this valuable insights. You're so kind to share this value with my audience. So welcome back anytime. Tell our audience the best way how to keep learning from you, how to follow you, how to reach out to you.
Yeah, absolutely. And Anatoly, I truly appreciate all the awesome things you're doing, and definitely get an opportunity to be back on. I have a site that is kind of a landing page for everything that I do. It's IAMGRESH.com. That spells out IamGresh.com. You can check out links to Blue 60 Media, CB Nation, the podcast. And then you can also check out YouAreAmedia.company. And that's where a lot of the things that I talk about being and building a media company is something you can lean into in different ways that you could do it there. So also check out that site. And I totally, truly appreciate you for all the awesomeness you continue to do, and glad I could be a small part of it. Hello. This is Gresh again, and I hope you enjoyed that special episode of the I Am CEO podcast. Just like I mentioned in the beginning, we're really trying to laser focus on these 8 pillars to show you as a builder how you can leverage these 8 pillars and really level up there, so it helps to level up your business and organization. So hope you enjoyed this episode, and definitely please check out the show notes so you can learn more about the pillar, learn more about the person that I guested on their episode, and of course learn more a little bit more about us as well too. This is Gresh signing out. I hope you have a phenomenal rest of the day.